Our marriage is going under, just like me.
I knew my marriage was over when Nicole started buying throw pillows with French insults on them. Not that she spoke French. Hell, she could barely manage Spanish after 4 years of high school classes. But there they were, scattered across our pristine white couch, like little fabric landmines of passive aggression. "Alex, did you even look at the new pillows?" Nicole's voice cut through the morning silence like a chainsaw through meditation music. She stood in our glass-walled kitchen, all sharp angles and designer athleisure, holding her green smoothie like it was evidence in a homicide trial. "They're very decorative," I said, not looking up from my coffee. At 41, I'd learned that survival in marriage sometimes meant strategic blindness. They say your husband is an idiot in French. She said this with the kind of satisfaction most people reserved for announcing lottery winnings. I finally looked up. Charming. Did they have matching napkins that say, "Your wife is a psychopath" in Italian? Nicole's perfectly contoured face twisted into what she probably thought was an intimidating glare. "You're impossible, Alex. This is exactly why—" She stopped herself, but I caught the slip. "Why what, Nicole?" "Nothing. Just nothing." She grabbed her Hermès bag, a birthday gift I'd stupidly bought her last year, and headed for the door. "I'll be late tonight. Client dinner?" Another client dinner. She'd had 7 this month, and it was only the 15th. Either Nicole's PR firm was experiencing an unprecedented boom, or my wife was a lying, cheating. The front door slammed with enough force to rattle our expensive minimalist art. I sat alone in our glass house, literally and figuratively, watching the morning sun reflect off surfaces that cost more than most people's cars. My name is Alex Tarrant, and I'm what you might call a successful failure. Senior architect at Kessler & Associates, designer of 3 award-winning urban renewal projects, and apparently the kind of husband who inspires French insult pillows. I've got the corner office, the luxury car, and the kind of creative mind that can envision entire city blocks where others see empty lots. What I didn't have, apparently, was a faithful wife. The signs had been there for months. Nicole's sudden interest in yoga classes that ran until 10 p.m., her new wardrobe of clothes that seemed designed for impressing someone who wasn't me, the way she'd started putting her phone face down during dinner, like it was radioactive. But the real wake-up call came 3 days later, when I returned early from a business trip to Portland. I'd finished the client presentation ahead of schedule and caught an earlier flight, thinking I'd surprise Nicole with dinner at that Italian place she loved. Instead, I got the surprise of my lifetime. I walked into our bedroom and found clothes scattered across the floor like breadcrumbs leading to infidelity. Nicole's black dress, the one she'd worn to book club, was draped over our reading chair. Next to it, a man's shirt. Expensive, not mine. My hands shook as I picked up the wallet that had fallen behind our bed. Driver's license, Tristan Hale, age 35, with the kind of chiseled jawline that belonged on romance novel covers. The address was downtown, in one of those converted loft buildings where aspiring actors and trust fund babies pretended to be artists. I heard the shower running. Both of them were in there, in our bathroom, probably congratulating themselves on their cleverness. Something inside me snapped. I gathered Tristan's clothes, his wallet, his pretentious leather jacket, and his stupid designer shoes. Then I opened our bedroom window, the one that faced the street, and threw everything out onto our perfectly manicured lawn. The shower stopped. Footsteps. Whispered voices. Nicole appeared first, wrapped in my bathrobe, her face flushed with guilt and panic. Behind her, Tristan emerged, wearing nothing but a towel and an expression of pure terror. "Alex," Nicole started, but I held up my hand. "Your clothes are on the lawn," I told Tristan, my voice surprisingly calm. "I suggest you collect them and leave, now." Tristan looked at Nicole, then at me, then apparently decided that discretion was the better part of valor. He grabbed another towel and headed for the stairs. "This isn't what it looks like," Nicole said, which had to be the most ridiculous lie in the history of cheating. "Really? Because it looks like you're screwing some male model in our bed while I'm working my buttocks off to pay for this house." "Alex, please, let me explain." "Explain what? How long you've been lying to me? How many client dinners were actually sex sessions? How stupid you think I am?" Nicole's face shifted from guilty to defensive in record time. "You want to know the truth? Fine, yes, I'm seeing Tristan. And you know what? I don't feel guilty about it. You've been emotionally absent for years, Alex. When was the last time you took me anywhere nice?" When was the last time you made me feel desired? I took you to Napa last month. For a work conference. Everything with you is work, work, work. Tristan makes me feel alive again. He listens to me. He pays attention to me. He's also apparently very good at taking his clothes off in other people's houses. From downstairs came the sound of our front door opening and closing. Tristan had made his escape, probably looking like a streaker as he gathered his scattered wardrobe from our lawn. Nicole sat on the edge of our bed, still wearing my robe, and for a moment she looked like the woman I'd married 8 years ago. Vulnerable, beautiful, human. "I still love you," she said quietly. Funny way of showing it. I know this is hard to understand, but actually it's pretty easy to understand. You're bored with our marriage, so you decided to audition replacements. How long has this been going on? She looked away. 3 months. 3 months. While I'd been working late on the Morrison project, Nicole had been working late on her personal trainer. While I'd been planning our anniversary dinner, she'd been planning rendezvous with Mr. Perfect Jawline. "I need you to leave," I said. "This is my house, too." "Then I'll leave. But I'm not sleeping under the same roof as someone who thinks marriage vows are more like marriage suggestions." I packed a bag and drove to the Marriott downtown, where I spent the night staring at the ceiling and wondering how I'd missed the signs. Or maybe I hadn't missed them. Maybe I'd just been too proud or too stupid to acknowledge what was right in front of me. The next morning, I went to work determined to lose myself in blueprints and building codes. But fate, as it turned out, had other plans. I was in the elevator, heading up to my office on the 15th floor, when the doors opened on the 10th floor, and in walked Nicole's brother, Gregor Kessler, my boss, the man who'd hired me 6 years ago and who'd been like a brother to me ever since. "Alex, perfect timing," Gregor said, his usual enthusiastic smile lighting up his face. "I want you to meet our new branding consultant." Behind Gregor stepped the last person I expected to see, Tristan Hale, looking immaculate in a $1,000 suit and acting like he'd never seen me before in his life. "Tristan, this is Alex Tarrant, our senior architect. Alex, meet Tristan Hale. He's going to be working with us on some exciting new projects." Tristan extended his hand with the kind of confident smile that probably worked on everyone who hadn't recently thrown his underwear out a second-story window. "Pleasure to meet you, Alex," he said, his voice smooth as aged whiskey. I stared at his outstretched hand for a long moment, then looked him directly in the eyes. "The pleasure," I said, "is all yours." The next few weeks were like living in a psychological thriller written by someone with a particularly twisted sense of humor. Tristan Hale, male model turned branding consultant, had somehow convinced my brother-in-law that he was the second coming of Don Draper. Worse, he was doing it with Nicole's help. I discovered this during what I now think of as the Great Coffee Shop Reconnaissance of 2024. It was a Tuesday morning, and I was grabbing my usual double shot of liquid motivation from Brew and Grind when I spotted them. Nicole and her friend Haley huddled over lattes like conspirators planning a coup, which, as it turned out, they basically were. I ducked behind a display of artisanal coffee beans because my life had apparently become a bad spy movie, and listened. "Gregor absolutely loves him," Nicole was saying, stirring her foam art into abstract swirls. "He thinks Tristan is brilliant. Fresh perspective, modern approach, all that corporate buzzword nonsense." Haley leaned forward, her eyes bright with gossip-fueled excitement. "And Alex has no idea?" "Alex is completely clueless. He's so buried in his blueprints and building codes, he couldn't see the obvious if it bit him on his boring architect buttocks." They both laughed, and I felt something cold settle in my stomach. This wasn't just an affair. This was a coordinated attack on my career. "The best part," Nicole continued, "is that Tristan is actually good at this stuff. He's already identified 3 ways to streamline the Morrison project. Gregor is talking about putting him in charge of the whole thing. The Morrison project. My Morrison project. The urban renewal plan I'd been developing for 8 months. The project that was supposed to be my masterpiece. "What about Alex?" Haley asked. "Won't he fight back?" Nicole shrugged, a gesture that managed to convey both indifference and contempt. "Alex doesn't fight for anything anymore. He just accepts whatever happens and retreats into his little world of measurements and materials. It's pathetic, really." I stayed hidden behind the coffee beans until they left, then sat in my car for 20 minutes trying to process what I'd heard. My wife wasn't just cheating on me. She was actively sabotaging my career to advance her boyfriend's. The evidence started piling up after that. Files that went missing from my office only to reappear on Tristan's desk. Client meetings I wasn't invited to despite being the lead architect. Subtle changes to project specifications that I hadn't approved. My friend Raj, who handled IT for the firm, confirmed my suspicions. Someone's been accessing your files, he told me over lunch at our usual spot, a dive bar that served surprisingly good sandwiches and asked no questions about day drinking. The digital fingerprints are all over your Morrison folder. Raj Patel had been my closest friend since college, where we'd bonded over late-night study sessions and a shared appreciation for sarcasm as a defense mechanism. He was brilliant with computers, loyal to a fault, and possessed the kind of dry wit that could make even the worst situations bearable. Can you trace it back to Tristan? I asked. Not definitively. Whoever did this was smart enough to cover their tracks, but the access times coincide perfectly with when Pretty Boy started working here. Pretty Boy? Come on, Alex. The guy looks like he was carved from marble by someone with serious daddy issues. I'm surprised he can walk through doorways without getting stuck. Despite everything, I laughed. You're terrible. I'm honest. There's a difference. Raj took a bite of his sandwich and studied me with the kind of intense focus he usually reserved for debugging code. So what's the plan? Are we going to let Captain Cheekbones destroy your career, or are we going to fight back? What do you suggest? Well, we could always plant some digital traps. Nothing illegal, just educational. If someone's stealing your work, they should at least have to work for it. Over the next 2 weeks, Raj and I implemented what he called Project Honeypot. We created several fake project files, each one containing subtle but significant flaws that would only become apparent to someone who actually knew what they were doing. If Tristan was stealing my work, he'd soon find himself presenting plans that were architectural disasters waiting to happen. The trap worked better than we'd hoped. It was a Friday afternoon when Gregor called me into his office. The space was exactly what you'd expect from a successful architect. Floor-to-ceiling windows, expensive furniture, and enough awards and accolades to stock a small museum. Alex, we need to talk, Gregor said, his usual warmth replaced by something that felt uncomfortably like disappointment. Tristan was already there, sitting in one of the leather chairs across from Gregor's desk, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. His perfect face was pale, and there were actual beads of sweat on his forehead. I've been reviewing the Morrison project proposals, Gregor continued, and I have to say, I'm concerned about the quality of work coming out of this office. Oh? I kept my voice neutral, but inside I was grinning like a lottery winner. The structural calculations for the residential tower are completely wrong. The foundation specs won't support a building half that size. And don't get me started on the drainage system. It would flood the entire complex during the first heavy rain. Tristan shifted in his chair, his jaw clenched so tight I was surprised his teeth didn't crack. I'm not sure I understand, I said. Which proposal are you referring to? The one Tristan submitted yesterday. He said it was based on your preliminary work, but Alex, this is undergraduate level stuff. I mean really basic mistakes that someone with your experience would never make. I turned to look at Tristan, who was staring at the floor like it might open up and swallow him whole. Tristan, did you review these plans with me before submitting them? There must have been some miscommunication, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Miscommunication? Gregor's eyebrows shot up. Tristan, you told me these plans were ready for client presentation. We're supposed to meet with the Morrison Group on Monday. I can fix this, Tristan said quickly. Just give me the weekend. I'll have everything corrected by Monday morning. With what? I asked innocently. The structural engineering software? The geological surveys? The municipal building codes? Because all of those require specialized knowledge that takes years to develop. Gregor looked back and forth between us, and I could see the wheels turning in his head. He was starting to realize that his brilliant new hire might not be quite as brilliant as advertised. Alex, can you salvage this? Gregor asked. Of course, I'll have corrected plans ready by Monday morning. But in the future, maybe we should establish clearer protocols for project oversight. We can't afford mistakes like this. Absolutely, Tristan. I think it would be best if you focused on the marketing and branding aspects of our projects going forward. Leave the technical work to the people with the proper qualifications. Tristan nodded miserably, and I felt a surge of satisfaction that was probably unhealthy, but definitely deserved. But my victory was short-lived. That evening, I was working late in my office, putting together the real Morrison proposal, when I heard voices from the conference room. Nicole's voice, specifically, along with Gregor's and several others I didn't recognize. I crept closer and listened through the partially open door. "The problem isn't Tristan," Nicole was saying. "The problem is Alex. He's been territorial and uncooperative from day one. He's deliberately undermining Tristan's work because he feels threatened." "That doesn't sound like Alex," Gregor said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. "Gregor, you're my brother, and I love you, but you've always been too trusting. Alex has been coasting on his reputation for years. When was the last time he brought in a major new client? When was the last time he had a truly innovative idea? The Morrison Project is the same urban renewal template he's been using for 5 years. There's nothing original about it. Tristan has fresh ideas, modern approaches. He understands how to market architecture to today's clients. But the technical errors were Alex's fault. He gave Tristan corrupted files, probably on purpose. He's trying to make Tristan look incompetent because he knows that Tristan represents the future of this firm. I listened to my wife systematically destroy my reputation and professional credibility, and I realized that this wasn't just about an affair anymore. This was about Nicole and Tristan trying to take over my entire life. The next Monday, Gregor called me into his office again. This time, he wasn't alone. 3 of the firm's partners were there, along with Nicole and Tristan. It felt like a tribunal. "Alex," Gregor began, his voice formal and cold, "we've been discussing your future with the firm." "My future?" "There have been concerns raised about your attitude and work quality. Several people have suggested that you might be happier somewhere else." I looked around the room, taking in the faces of people I'd worked with for years. People who'd celebrated my successes, who'd trusted me with their biggest projects. Now they were looking at me like I was a problem to be solved. "What kind of concerns?" I asked. "Territorial behavior, resistance to collaboration, possible sabotage of colleagues' work." Gregor was reading from notes, not meeting my eyes. "The partners feel that it would be best for everyone if you transitioned out of your current role. You're firing me. We're offering you a generous severance package and excellent references. But yes, we think it's time for you to explore other opportunities." I stood up slowly, my mind reeling. "And I suppose Tristan will be taking over my projects?" "Tristan has shown remarkable insight into modern architectural marketing," one of the partners said. "With proper support, we believe he can take the Morrison Project in exciting new directions." I looked at Nicole, who was sitting there with a perfectly composed expression, like she was watching a mildly interesting television show. She'd orchestrated this entire thing, turned my own brother-in-law against me, and destroyed my career to advance her boyfriend's. "I'll need my personal files," I said. "Security will escort you to collect your things," Gregor said. "I'm sorry it came to this, Alex. I really am." But he didn't look sorry. He looked relieved, like he'd finally solved a difficult problem. As I packed my office under the watchful eye of a security guard, I caught sight of Tristan and Nicole through the glass partition. They were standing close together, talking quietly, and for just a moment, Tristan looked directly at me and smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who just won a game I didn't even know I was playing. That night, sitting in my hotel room with a bottle of whiskey and a box of my personal belongings, I made a decision. If Nicole and Tristan wanted to play games, I'd show them what a real game looked like. But first, I needed to figure out the rules. Living in a hotel room gives you a unique perspective on failure. Everything is temporary. The furniture, the view, the little bottles of shampoo that make you feel like you're constantly starting over. I'd been at the Marriott for 3 weeks, and I was starting to understand why people in witness protection programs went crazy. My daily routine had become depressingly predictable. Wake up, shower with industrial-grade soap, eat continental breakfast that tasted like cardboard, and then spend 8 hours pretending to look for a new job while actually planning my revenge. The revenge part was going better than the job search. "You look like hell," Raj said, sliding into the booth across from me at our usual dive bar. It was 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, which meant we were drinking with the serious alcoholics and the night shift workers. I wasn't sure which category I fell into anymore. "Thank you for that astute observation. Your social skills remain unparalleled." "I'm serious, Alex. When was the last time you shaved, or changed clothes, or left that hotel room for something other than alcohol procurement?" I looked down at my wrinkled shirt and jeans. He had a point. I've been busy. Busy doing what? Wallowing? Because if wallowing was an Olympic sport, you'd be looking at serious medal contention. I've been researching. Researching what? I pulled out my laptop and opened a folder labeled Project Phoenix. Inside were dozens of documents, photographs, and what could generously be called intelligence reports. Did you know that Tristan Hale has never actually completed a branding project? I said. His entire resume is fabricated. He was a catalog model for 3 years, then spent 2 years as a lifestyle consultant for rich women in Beverly Hills. Before that, he sold timeshares in Florida. Raj leaned forward, his expression shifting from concern to interest. How did you find this out? Maria? Your housekeeper? How would she know not about Tristan's background, about Nicole's secrets? Turns out, when you treat your housekeeper like furniture for 8 years, she notices things. And when your husband gets fired and humiliated, she suddenly becomes very talkative. Maria Gonzalez had worked for us for 5 years. She was quiet, efficient, and apparently possessed the observational skills of a private investigator. When I'd stopped by the house to collect more clothes, she'd pulled me aside and handed me a manila envelope. I saved these for you, she'd said in her heavily accented English. I think you should know. Inside the envelope were printed emails, credit card statements, and photographs. Nicole had been sloppy, leaving evidence of her affair scattered around the house like breadcrumbs. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills for 2, pictures from her phone that she'd printed out and then apparently forgotten about. But the real treasure was her correspondence with Haley. Listen to this, I told Raj, pulling up an email on my laptop. This is from Nicole to Haley, dated 2 weeks before I got fired. Gregor is finally starting to see Alex the way I do, as dead weight. Tristan's presentation tomorrow should seal the deal. By Christmas, Alex will be gone and T will have his corner office. Jesus, she really planned this whole thing. It gets better. Here's one from 3 days later. The partners are asking questions about T's qualifications. Need to discredit Alex more systematically. Maybe hint at drinking problem or anger management issues. Raj shook his head. Your wife is diabolical. I mean, genuinely impressively evil. It's almost artistic. She's not my wife anymore. I filed for divorce yesterday. Good. What did your lawyer say about all this evidence? The cheating and professional sabotage make for a very favorable settlement, especially when the cheating involves someone who was hired by the wrong spouse's company. I'd hired Jennifer Walsh, a divorce attorney with a reputation for taking no prisoners and leaving no assets unturned. She was expensive, ruthless, and exactly what I needed. Nicole's going to lose everything, I continued. The house, the cars, half of her savings. And since she orchestrated my firing, she might be looking at a lawsuit from the firm as well. What about Tristan? That's where things get interesting. I opened another folder on my laptop. Remember how I said his resume was fabricated? Well, I've been in touch with some of his previous employers. Turns out our boy Tristan has a pattern of seducing married women and then manipulating their husbands' businesses. You're kidding. Beverly Hills, 2019. Patricia Westbrook, wife of commercial real estate developer. Tristan convinced her to hire him as a consultant, then systematically undermined her husband's business relationships. The husband lost 3 major clients before he figured out what was happening. What happened to Tristan? Restraining order. But not before he'd made off with about $50,000 in consulting fees and Patricia's jewelry collection. Raj whistled low. So this is like his profession. It gets better. Miami, 2021. Sandra Chen, wife of restaurant chain owner. Same pattern. Affair, fake consulting contract, sabotage of the husband's business. That time, Tristan actually got arrested for fraud, but the charges were dropped when Sandra refused to testify. Why didn't they testify? Because by then, Tristan had convinced them that their husbands were the real villains. He's good at playing the sufferer, making himself seem like the misunderstood artist being persecuted by jealous, controlling men. I closed the laptop and looked at Raj. Nicole thinks she's found her soulmate. What she's actually found is a professional con artist who's been running the same scam for 5 years. So what's the plan? Turn this information over to the police? The police can't help with most of this. It's all civil stuff. Fraud, breach of contract, alienation of affection. But there are other ways to handle it. I'd been thinking about this for weeks, lying awake in my hotel bed, staring at the ceiling and planning. Nicole and Tristan had destroyed my marriage and my career, but they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd underestimated me. I'm starting my own firm, I said, With what money? You're living in a hotel and drinking lunch. I've got savings they don't know about. Remember that consulting work I did for the Vancouver project last year? I set up a separate account for the payments. Nicole never knew about it. It was true. I'd been squirreling away money from freelance projects for 3 years, originally planning to surprise Nicole with a European vacation for our 10th anniversary. Now it was going to fund my comeback. I've already secured office space in Toronto, small but perfect for what I need, and I've got a lead on a major client. Who? The Morrison Group. Raj's eyes widened. The same Morrison Group that Tristan is supposed to be wooing with his brilliant marketing insights? The very same. Turns out they're not entirely happy with the direction their project is taking. Something about structural problems and unrealistic timelines. This was the beautiful part of my plan. Tristan had been so eager to steal my work that he'd never bothered to understand it. The plans he'd presented to the Morrison Group were based on my preliminary sketches that were never meant to be final proposals. They were rough concepts, full of problems that I would have solved during the development process. But Tristan didn't know that. He'd presented them as finished work, and now the Morrison Group was asking uncomfortable questions about load-bearing calculations and soil stability reports. I've got a meeting with them next week, I continued. Unofficially, of course, just a casual conversation about urban renewal strategies and sustainable development practices. And if they like what you have to say, then Kessler and Associates loses their biggest client, and I get the contract that was supposed to make my career. Raj grinned. Now that's the Alex I remember. Devious, calculating, and just a little bit scary. I'm just getting started. Over the next week, I put the rest of my plan into motion. I hired a private investigator to document Tristan's pattern of fraud. I contacted his previous sufferers, several of whom were very interested in sharing their stories. And I started reaching out to former colleagues who might be interested in joining a new firm. The response was better than I'd hoped. Apparently, Tristan's management style at Kessler and Associates was not winning him any friends. He was arrogant, condescending, and had a tendency to take credit for other people's work. Sound familiar? Half the office is ready to quit, my former colleague Susan told me over coffee. Gregor's starting to realize he made a mistake, but he's too proud to admit it, and Nicole keeps defending Tristan, which is making everything worse. How so? She's there constantly now, acting like she's part of the management team, giving opinions on projects, sitting in on client meetings. People are starting to talk. This was perfect. Nicole was so focused on advancing Tristan's career that she was destroying her own reputation in the process. Her PR firm was already losing clients. Apparently, having your personal life become office gossip wasn't great for professional credibility. There's something else, Susan said, lowering her voice. The Morrison Group called yesterday. They want to postpone the project indefinitely. Really? They said they need to reassess their architectural partnership. Gregor was furious. He spent an hour yelling at Tristan behind closed doors. I tried to look surprised, but inside I was celebrating. My meeting with Morrison had gone even better than expected. They'd been impressed with my alternative proposals, my understanding of their long-term goals, and my ability to explain complex technical concepts in simple terms. They'd also been very interested in my stories about professional ethics and the importance of working with people you could trust. Did they say anything else? I asked Susan. Just that they might be exploring other options. Gregor's panicking. This was supposed to be the project that established Tristan as a legitimate architect. And now it looks like Tristan might have ended the golden goose. That evening, I called Jennifer Walsh to update her on my progress. The divorce papers will be served tomorrow, she told me. I've also prepared a civil suit against both Nicole and Tristan for intentional interference with business relationships. It's a long shot, but with the evidence you've provided, we might be able to make it stick. What about the house? Given the circumstances, you'll get the house and most of the liquid assets. Nicole's cheating, combined with her role in your termination, makes this a very favorable case for you. And Tristan? He's going to have bigger problems than your lawsuit. I've been in touch with the Beverly Hills DA's office. They're very interested in reopening the Patricia Westbrook case, especially now that there's a pattern of behavior. Everything was falling into place. Nicole and Tristan had thought they were so clever, so untouchable. They'd never considered that their sufferer might fight back, but I was just getting warmed up. The thing about revenge is that it's like architecture. You need a solid foundation before you can build anything spectacular. I'd spent 6 weeks laying groundwork, And now it was time to start construction. My new office in Toronto was nothing like the glass palace I'd left behind at Kessler and Associates. It was a converted warehouse in the Arts District with exposed brick walls, industrial lighting, and the kind of creative energy that comes from people actually working instead of just talking about working. "It's perfect," said David Chen, the structural engineer I'd poached from my old firm. He was standing in what would become our main conference room, looking out at the city skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. Very successful architect who doesn't need to prove anything with expensive furniture. That's the idea. David was the first of 3 key hires I'd made. The second was Lisa Rodriguez, a project manager with 15 years of experience and a reputation for bringing projects in on time and under budget. The third was Raj, who'd finally quit his job at Kessler and Associates after Tristan had accused him of technological insubordination, apparently for refusing to hack into a competitor's files. "Your boy Tristan is really making friends," Raj told me as we set up the IT infrastructure. "Yesterday, he tried to get me to spy on Morrison Group's email communications. When I told him that was illegal, he said I was being unnecessarily rigid about ethical boundaries." "He actually said that?" "Word for word. I recorded it." Raj held up his phone. "I've been recording all our conversations since you left. Call it insurance." Smart man. I'd learned the hard way that when dealing with people like Nicole and Tristan, documentation was everything. Speaking of documentation, the private investigator I'd hired had been busy. Patricia Westbrook, the Beverly Hills real estate developer's wife, had agreed to a phone interview. Her story was depressingly familiar. "He was so charming at first," she told me, her voice carrying the weight of expensive lessons learned. "Handsome, attentive, full of ideas about how to modernize Richard's business. I thought I'd found someone who really understood me." "When did you realize what was happening?" "When Richard lost the Millennium Tower contract, a deal he'd been working on for 2 years, suddenly dead because the client had concerns about the firm's direction. Later, I found out that Tristan had been having private meetings with them, undermining Richard's proposals and suggesting that the firm was stuck in the past." "Did you confront Tristan?" "I tried. He convinced me that Richard was paranoid, that he was looking for someone to blame for his own failures. Tristan was very good at making himself seem like the sufferer." "What finally opened your eyes?" "I found his laptop open one day. He had files on 12 other women, all married to successful businessmen, all detailed profiles with financial information, business contacts, personal vulnerabilities. I was just another mark." Patricia had agreed to testify if needed, and she'd put me in touch with 2 other sufferers. The pattern was always the same: seduce the wife, infiltrate the business, sabotage from within, then disappear with whatever he could steal. But this time was different. This time, Tristan had picked the wrong target. The Morrison Group meeting was scheduled for a Thursday morning. I knew this because Susan was still feeding me information from inside Kessler and Associates, where morale had hit rock bottom and people were jumping ship faster than rats fleeing the Titanic. "Gregor's desperate," she told me during our weekly coffee. "He knows the Morrison deal is falling apart, and the partners are asking hard questions about Tristan's qualifications. Nicole's been in the office every day trying to do damage control." "How's that working out?" "About as well as you'd expect." She had a screaming match with Janet from accounting yesterday. Something about expense reports for Tristan's research trips to expensive restaurants. I almost felt sorry for Gregor. Almost. He'd thrown away 6 years of friendship and professional respect because his sister had convinced him that her boyfriend was an architectural genius. Now, he was learning the difference between charisma and competence. The Morrison Group meeting was supposed to be Tristan's big comeback moment. Instead, it became his Waterloo. I wasn't there, of course, but Susan gave me a full report afterward. "It was a massacre," she said, barely able to contain her glee. "Morrison brought their own structural engineer, and she started asking technical questions that Tristan couldn't answer. Basic stuff, load calculations, soil reports, building code compliance." "What did he say?" "He kept trying to redirect the conversation to vision and brand synergy. At one point, he actually said that technical details were less important than emotional architecture." Emotional architecture? I know, right? Morrison's engineer asked him to explain the foundation specifications for the residential tower. Tristan said foundations were metaphorical, and that modern architecture was about building dreams, not just buildings. I had to admire his commitment to complete nonsense. In a way, Tristan was an artist, a nonsense artist, but still. How did it end? Morrison terminated the contract on the spot, said they needed to work with professionals who understand the difference between poetry and engineering. Gregor tried to salvage it by offering to bring in outside consultants, but Morrison said they had already found someone else. Someone else. That would be me. The Morrison Group had contacted me the previous week, asking if I'd be interested in taking over their urban renewal project. The timeline was aggressive, the budget was substantial, and the opportunity for creative freedom was exactly what I needed to establish my new firm. "We were impressed with your preliminary proposals," Morrison's CEO had told me. "You seem to understand that good architecture requires both vision and competence." "I believe they're inseparable," I'd replied. "You can't build dreams on faulty foundations." The contract was signed the next day. Tarrant and Associates' first major project, and it was the same one that was supposed to make Tristan's career. But I wasn't content with just stealing his thunder. I wanted him to know exactly who was responsible for his downfall. The architectural conference in Chicago was perfect for my purposes. It was the kind of industry event where everyone went to network, share ideas, and show off their latest projects. Tristan would be there, representing Kessler and Associates and trying to rebuild his reputation after the Morrison disaster. I arrived early, registered under my new company name, and waited. Tristan appeared during the lunch break, looking every bit the successful architect in his designer suit and Italian shoes. He was working the room like a politician, shaking hands and distributing business cards with practiced charm. I watched him for 20 minutes, studying his technique. He was good at this part. The schmoozing, the networking, the surface-level conversations that made people think he was more substantial than he actually was. Then I made my move. "Tristan Hale," I said, approaching him near the coffee station. What a pleasant surprise. He turned, and for just a moment his mask slipped. I saw recognition, then fear, then a quick calculation of options. But he recovered quickly, flashing that magazine cover smile. "Alex, I didn't know you were here. How are you doing?" "Very well, actually. I'm here representing my new firm. We just landed a major urban renewal project." "That's wonderful. I'm glad things are working out for you." "Yes, it's funny how things work out. The client was originally working with another firm, but apparently there were some technical issues with their proposal. Something about emotional architecture not being compatible with structural engineering." Tristan's smile became strained. "I'm not sure I follow." "The Morrison Group. You remember them, right? They were very complimentary about your presentation, said it was unlike anything they'd ever seen." Now his face was pale beneath his perfect tan. "Alex, I think there might be some misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding at all. In fact, I should thank you. If you hadn't sabotaged my career, I never would have started my own firm. And if you hadn't completely botched the Morrison presentation, they never would have hired me." I leaned closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. "I know what you are, Tristan. I know about Patricia Westbrook, Sandra Chen, and the others. I know about your fake resume, your pattern of fraud, and your little hobby of destroying marriages for profit." He started to back away, but I followed, keeping my voice conversational and my expression friendly. "To anyone watching, we were just two colleagues having a pleasant chat. The police in Beverly Hills are very interested in talking to you," I continued. "Seems like Patricia found some additional evidence in her husband's files. Financial records, email communications, that sort of thing. Statute of limitations hasn't run out yet." "You can't prove anything," he whispered. "I don't have to prove anything. I just have to make sure the right people know what you are. Speaking of which, I should introduce you to some colleagues." I guided him toward a group of architects from major firms, my hand on his elbow in a gesture that looked friendly but felt like a threat. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Tristan Hale from Kessler and Associates. Tristan's been doing some fascinating work in emotional architecture. Tell them about your foundation theory, Tristan." He mumbled something about needing to make a phone call and fled toward the exit. I watched him go, then turned back to the group with a smile. "Brilliant guy," I said. "Very creative." The conference was a networking goldmine. By the end of the day, I'd collected a dozen potential clients and established Tarrant and Associates as a firm to watch. Several people mentioned that they'd heard about the Morrison project, and everyone seemed impressed that a startup had landed such a prestigious contract. More importantly, word was spreading about Tristan's abrupt departure from the conference. In an industry built on relationships and reputation, that kind of behavior was noted and remembered. But the real payoff came 2 days later when Jennifer Walsh called with an update on the divorce proceedings. "Nicole's lawyer wants to negotiate. she said. "Apparently, your wife is having some financial difficulties." "What kind of difficulties?" "Her PR firm is hemorrhaging clients. Something about her personal life becoming a professional liability. And Tristan's been borrowing money from her. Quite a lot of money, actually." This was even better than I'd hoped. Nicole had been so focused on destroying my career that she'd neglected her own business, and Tristan, true to form, was bleeding her dry while he looked for his next mark. How much money? According to her financial disclosure, about $80,000 in the last 3 months. Loans for his consulting business and professional development, none of which appear to have been repaid. What's her negotiating position? Weak. She wants to keep the house and half the savings, but given the cheating and the evidence of professional sabotage, she's not in a position to make demands. Her lawyer is basically asking for mercy. And our response? I told them we'd consider a settlement if she provides a full written confession of her role in your termination and agrees to testify against Tristan in any future legal proceedings. Will she do it? If she wants to avoid complete financial ruin, yes. Tristan's left her with a lot of debt and very few assets. It was beautiful, really. Nicole had sacrificed everything, her marriage, her business, her reputation, for a man who was using her the same way he'd used a dozen other women. And now that his scam was falling apart, he was preparing to disappear, leaving her holding the bag. But I wasn't done with either of them yet. The real masterpiece was still to come. There's something deeply satisfying about watching your enemies destroy themselves. It's like being an architect of karma. You design the structure, but they're the ones who choose to walk into it. Nicole's confession arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by her lawyer like a surrender document from a defeated army. 23 pages of detailed admissions about how she'd manipulated Gregor, sabotaged my projects, and coordinated with Tristan to have me fired. It was more thorough than I'd expected and more damning than I dared hope. "She's trying to save herself," Jennifer Walsh explained over the phone. "Tristan disappeared 3 days ago, and she's finally realizing that she's been played." Disappeared? Packed up his apartment, emptied his bank accounts, and vanished. Left Nicole with about $60,000 in credit card debt that she'd co-signed for his business expenses. I almost laughed. Almost. The pattern was so predictable that I could have written the script myself. Seduce the mark, drain their resources, then disappear when things got complicated. Nicole had thought she was different, special, the one woman who could change him. Instead, she'd become just another sufferer in his long line of conquests. What about the divorce settlement? She's agreed to everything. You get the house, the cars, and 70% of the liquid assets. She keeps her business and her debts. And the civil suit? She'll testify against Tristan if we can find him. In exchange, we'll drop the interference charges against her. It was a good deal, maybe too good. But I had bigger plans for Tristan than a civil lawsuit. The house felt different when I moved back in, smaller somehow, despite being exactly the same size. Nicole had taken her personal belongings and left behind a space that felt more like a museum than a home. All those expensive decorations, all that carefully curated perfection. It had never been about creating a life together. It had been about creating an image. Maria was still there, of course. She'd kept the place immaculate during my absence, and she greeted my return with the kind of quiet satisfaction that comes from seeing justice served. "I'm glad you're home, Mr. Alex," she said as I carried my bags up to the master bedroom. "The house was too quiet without you." "Thank you, Maria, for everything," she nodded, understanding that I wasn't just talking about housekeeping. She'd been the one to provide the evidence that started my comeback. In a way, she'd been my first ally in this war. "Mrs. Nicole called yesterday," she said. "She wanted to know if she could come by to get some things she forgot." "What did you tell her?" "That she should call your lawyer." Smart woman. I was going to give her a raise. The Morrison project was going beautifully. My team had thrown themselves into the work with the kind of enthusiasm that comes from being part of something important. We were designing more than just buildings. We were creating a vision of urban renewal that balanced economic development with community needs. "The residential tower is going to be spectacular," Lisa said during our weekly progress meeting. "The client loves the sustainable design features, and the city planning office is calling it a model for future development." "What about the timeline?" "Ahead of schedule and under budget. Amazing what you can accomplish when you're not dealing with incompetent management." David looked up from his structural calculations. Speaking of incompetent management, I heard from a friend at Kessler and Associates. Gregor's having a complete meltdown. They've lost 3 major clients in the last month. This wasn't surprising. Word travels fast in the architecture world, and everyone knew about the Morrison disaster. Clients don't like working with firms that can't tell the difference between vision and competence. Any word on Tristan? I asked. Gone without a trace, Raj said, not looking up from his computer. But I've been monitoring his digital footprint. Credit cards, social media, email accounts, everything's gone dark. He's probably already working on his next mark, I said. Guys like him don't change their patterns. But I was wrong about that. Tristan hadn't moved on to his next sufferer. He was still in the city, still trying to salvage his reputation, and still making the same mistakes that had brought him down in the first place. I found this out when Susan called me with an update from the Kessler and Associates gossip network. "You're not going to believe this," she said, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Tristan's back." "Back where?" "He showed up at the office yesterday demanding to see Gregor. Security had to escort him out, but not before he made a scene in the lobby. Something about being owed money for his consulting work. This was interesting. Most con artists cut their losses and moved on when a scam fell apart. The fact that Tristan was still trying to collect payment suggested either desperation or stupidity. Possibly both. What did Gregor say? That Tristan was lucky not to be facing criminal charges. Apparently, the partners have been reviewing his work and they found evidence of fabricated client meetings, falsified expense reports, and misappropriated project funds. Misappropriated how? He was billing personal expenses to client accounts. Expensive dinners, hotel rooms, even a weekend trip to Las Vegas that he claimed was market research. The picture was becoming clearer. Tristan wasn't just a serial seducer. He was a garden-variety embezzler who used romance as cover for financial fraud. Nicole had been so blinded by his charm that she'd never bothered to look at what he was actually doing with the firm's money. "There's more," Susan continued. "Nicole showed up this morning, trying to get Gregor to give her information about the firm's legal strategy. She wants to know if they're planning to press charges against Tristan. Why would she care? I thought she was done with him." "Apparently not. Haley thinks Nicole's still hoping to get back together with him. She's been telling people that Tristan was set up, that you orchestrated the whole thing to get revenge." I had to admire Nicole's ability to rewrite history. Even faced with overwhelming evidence of Tristan's fraud, she was still casting him as the sufferer and me as the villain. Some people would rather live in a comfortable lie than face an uncomfortable truth. But her delusions were about to collide with reality in a very public way. The industry awards dinner was one of those events that nobody really enjoyed, but everyone attended. It was a chance for architects to network, celebrate achievements, and pretend that they weren't all competing for the same limited pool of high-end clients. I was there to accept an award for the Morrison Project's innovative design approach. It was a nice recognition, but more importantly, it was a chance to establish Tarrant and Associates as a major player in the industry. I didn't expect to see Nicole there, but she appeared during the cocktail hour, looking elegant and desperate in equal measure. She was working the room like she belonged there, chatting with architects and developers as if she hadn't spent the last 6 months destroying her professional reputation. "Alex," she said, approaching me near the bar, "congratulations on the award. You deserve it." "Thank you. I was hoping we could talk, privately." I looked around the room, noting the curious glances from colleagues who knew our history. "I don't think that's a good idea, Nicole. We should keep our communication through the lawyers. Please, just 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I followed her to a quiet corner of the room. She looked tired, older somehow, like the stress of the last few months had finally caught up with her. "I know you hate me," she said, "and I understand why. I made terrible choices, and I hurt you in ways that I can never take back. Is there a point to this? Tristan's in trouble. Real trouble. The police are looking for him and he's scared. He needs help. And you think I should provide it? I think you're the only one who can. You have influence now, connections. If you wanted to, you could make this go away." I stared at her, genuinely amazed by her audacity. "Nicole, do you understand what you're asking me? You want me to help the man who destroyed my career and stole my wife?" "He didn't steal me, Alex. I chose to leave. You chose to have an affair and sabotage my professional life. There's a difference. I know I hurt you, but Tristan's not the monster you think he is. He's just lost." He makes bad decisions when he's desperate. Bad decisions like fraud, like embezzlement, like running the same con on a dozen other women. Her face went pale. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone and showed her the private investigator's report. Photos of Tristan with other women, financial records, police reports from previous scams. Her hands shook as she scrolled through the evidence. This can't be real, she whispered. Patricia Westbrook sends her regards, by the way. She's looking forward to testifying at Tristan's trial. Nicole looked up at me, her eyes filled with tears and something that might have been recognition. He told me you were trying to frame him. Nicole, he's a professional con artist. Seducing married women and destroying their families is literally his job. You weren't his girlfriend. You were his mark. She handed me back the phone and stood there for a long moment, processing the destruction of her carefully constructed fantasy. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. I gave up everything for him. Yes, you did. And he never loved me at all. No, he didn't. She nodded slowly, like she was finally accepting a truth she'd been avoiding for months. Then she straightened up, wiped her eyes, and looked at me with something approaching her old determination. What can I do to help you destroy him? The answer, as it turned out, was quite a lot. The thing about building the perfect trap is that it has to look like an opportunity. Tristan had spent his career exploiting other people's weaknesses, so I decided to give him exactly what he thought he wanted, a chance to get back at me. Nicole's cooperation made everything possible. She still had access to Tristan's email account. Apparently, he'd never bothered to change his passwords, and she was more than willing to help orchestrate his downfall. He's been staying at the Riverside Motel, she told me during one of our planning sessions at Jennifer Walsh's office. Room 247. He's been using a fake name, but he's still using his real credit cards like an idiot. What's his mental state? Paranoid, desperate. He thinks you've got some kind of conspiracy against him. He keeps talking about getting evidence to prove that you framed him. Evidence of what? He thinks you planted false information in his background check. He's convinced that if he can prove you're lying about his past, he can get his job back and clear his name. This was perfect. Tristan's narcissism wouldn't let him accept that he'd been caught because of his own incompetence. He needed to believe that he was the sufferer of an elaborate conspiracy, which made him predictable. Here's what we're going to do, I said, pulling out a detailed plan I'd been working on for weeks. We're going to give him exactly what he thinks he wants. The setup took 3 days to arrange. First, I had Raj create a fake email account and send Tristan a message claiming to be a disgruntled former employee of my private investigator. The message offered to sell him the real files that proved I'd fabricated evidence against him. Then I rented a storage unit on the outskirts of town and filled it with convincing-looking fake documents. Financial records, surveillance photos, fabricated police reports, everything designed to make Tristan think he'd found proof of my conspiracy. Finally, I arranged for the whole thing to be recorded. Multiple cameras, professional lighting, and a live stream to several law enforcement agencies who were very interested in Tristan's activities. This is either brilliant or completely insane, Raj said as we finished setting up the equipment. Possibly both. It's justice, I replied, and it's going to be very public. The meeting was set for a Thursday night at 10 p.m. Tristan arrived exactly on time, looking nervous but determined. He was wearing all black, like he was planning a heist, instead of what he thought was a simple document exchange. I watched from a van parked across the street as he approached the storage unit. The cameras captured everything, his furtive glances around the parking lot, the way he jumped at every sound, the obvious excitement on his face when he saw the boxes of evidence. He's taking the bait, Raj said, monitoring the video feed. Look at him. He actually thinks he's found the smoking firearm. For 20 minutes, Tristan rifled through the fake documents, photographing everything with his phone. He was so focused on his discovery that he didn't notice the cameras or the police cars that had quietly surrounded the storage facility. That's when I made my entrance. Finding everything you need, Tristan? He spun around, his face cycling through surprise, fear, and rage in rapid succession. Alex, I should have known you'd be here. This is my storage unit. Though I have to say, I'm impressed that you fell for something this obvious. I mean, a mysterious contact offering to sell you evidence. Did that really seem plausible? You set me up. I gave you exactly what you wanted. A chance to prove that you're the sufferer instead of the perpetrator. How's that working out for you? Tristan looked around the storage unit, finally noticing the cameras that were recording everything. His face went white as he realized the scope of what was happening. This is entrapment. Actually, it's performance art. You see, I wanted to give everyone a chance to see the real Tristan Hale in action. The sneaking around, the breaking and entering, the desperate search for something to blame your failures on. I didn't break into anything. The door was open. Was it? Because I'm pretty sure I locked it. And I'm pretty sure that picking locks constitutes breaking and entering, even if you don't actually break anything. The police chose that moment to make their presence known. Detective Sarah Morrison, no relation to the Morrison Group, just one of life's little coincidences, stepped into the storage unit with 2 uniformed officers behind her. "Mr. Hale," she said, "you're under arrest for breaking and entering, attempted theft, and violation of your restraining order." Restraining order? Tristan looked confused. "Patricia Westbrook filed it yesterday. You're not supposed to be within 500 feet of anyone connected to her case. That includes Mr. Tarrant here, who's been cooperating with our investigation." As the officers handcuffed Tristan, he looked at me with pure hatred. "This isn't over, Alex. I'll find a way to destroy you." "You already tried that," I said. "How did it work out?" They led him away, and I stood in the storage unit surrounded by fake evidence and real justice. The cameras were still rolling, broadcasting everything live to an audience that included law enforcement, industry colleagues, and anyone else who'd been following the story. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, looking directly into the main camera, "this concludes tonight's demonstration of how not to handle professional setbacks. Remember, kids, when your career implodes because of your own incompetence and criminal behavior, the solution is not to blame everyone else and commit more crimes." The live stream went viral within hours. #TristanGate became a trending topic, and the video was shared thousands of times across social media. The architecture community, which loves nothing more than a good scandal, dissected every moment of Tristan's downfall. But the real satisfaction came the next morning, when Nicole called to tell me that Gregor wanted to meet. "He's devastated," she said. "He realizes that he destroyed your friendship and nearly ruined the firm because he believed my lies about you. He wants to apologize." It's too late for apologies. I know, but he's also facing a lawsuit from the Morrison Group, and 3 other clients are threatening to leave. He needs help, Alex. The firm is going to collapse without someone who actually knows what they're doing. That's not my problem anymore. No, it's not, but it could be your opportunity. She was right, of course. Kessler and Associates was hemorrhaging money and reputation, but it still had valuable assets, client relationships, ongoing projects, a talented staff that had been held back by incompetent leadership. The meeting with Gregor took place in his office, the same space where he'd fired me 6 months earlier. He looked like he'd aged 5 years in the interim, his usual confidence replaced by the hollow-eyed desperation of a man watching his life's work crumble. "Alex," he said, standing up when I entered, "thank you for coming. Nicole said you wanted to apologize." "I do. What I did to you was inexcusable. I let personal relationships cloud my professional judgment, and I nearly destroyed everything our father built." Gregor's father had founded the firm 40 years earlier, building it from a one-man operation into one of the city's most respected architectural practices. Gregor had inherited the business, along with the pressure to live up to his father's legacy. "You did destroy it," I said. "The question is whether anything can be salvaged." "That's what I wanted to talk to you about." He gestured to a chair across from his desk. "I have a proposition." "I'm listening." "Merge your firm with ours. You'd be the senior partner, with full creative and operational control. I'd handle the business development and client relations. We keep the Kessler name for continuity, but it would really be your company." It was a generous offer, maybe too generous. "What's the catch?" "No catch. I'm desperate, Alex. Without you, this firm is going to collapse within 6 months. With you, we might be able to rebuild something worth saving." I looked around the office, taking in the awards and photographs that documented 4 decades of architectural achievement. Despite everything that had happened, this place had been my professional home for 6 years. The idea of watching it die because of Tristan's incompetence and Nicole's manipulation left a bitter taste in my mouth. "I'll need complete control over hiring and firing," I said. "Done. And I want a written guarantee that Nicole will have no involvement in the firm's operations." Also done. "And I want Tristan prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. No plea bargains, no reduced charges. He's facing multiple felony counts in 3 states. I don't think that's going to be a problem. We shook hands, and just like that, I was back where I'd started. Except this time, I was in charge. The merger took 3 months to complete, but the results were immediate. With competent leadership back in place, the firm's reputation began to recover. The Morrison Group agreed to continue their relationship with us, and 2 other clients who'd been considering leaving decided to stay. More importantly, the staff was energized in a way I hadn't seen since my early days at the firm. People were excited to come to work again, to be part of something that valued competence over charisma. It's like the whole place has been reborn, Susan told me during our first staff meeting under the new management structure. Everyone's talking about how good it feels to work for grown-ups again. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place when Patricia Westbrook called to tell me that Tristan had been convicted on multiple fraud charges and sentenced to 5 years in prison. He tried to represent himself at trial, she said, laughing. Apparently, he thought his charm would work on the jury. Instead, he came across as arrogant and delusional. They convicted him on all counts. What about the other sufferers? Sandra Chen got her money back, plus damages. The Miami case is still pending, but with his conviction here, it's just a matter of time. He's going to be paying restitution for the rest of his life. Justice, it turned out, was even sweeter than revenge. 6 months later, I was standing in my corner office, the same one I'd been escorted out of a year earlier, looking out at the city skyline and thinking about the strange turns life can take. The Morrison project was nearly complete, a gleaming example of what happens when vision meets competence. 3 other major projects were in development, and we were hiring new staff to handle the increased workload. Nicole had moved to Seattle, where she was trying to rebuild her PR business and her life. We spoke occasionally, usually about legal matters related to our divorce, but the anger and betrayal had faded into something more like pity. She'd sacrificed everything for a fantasy, and now she was living with the consequences. Tristan was in a minimum security prison in upstate New York, where he was apparently working in the library and taking correspondence courses in business ethics. The irony was so perfect that it felt like divine intervention. And me? I was exactly where I belonged, designing buildings, leading a team of talented professionals, and proving that in the end, competence trumps charisma every time. My phone buzzed with a text from Raj. New client wants to meet tomorrow. Says he heard about us from the Morrison Group. Also, there's a documentary crew here asking about the Tristan thing. Want me to talk to them? I typed back, schedule the client meeting. Tell the documentary people that some stories are better left in the past. Because the truth was, I didn't need the world to know how I'd gotten my revenge. The results spoke for themselves. Tristan was in prison, Nicole was in exile, and I was back on top. Not because I destroyed my enemies, but because I built something better than what they tried to tear down. That's the thing about architecture that applies to life as well. You can tear down someone else's work, but if you can't build something better to replace it, you're just a vandal with delusions of grandeur. And I, unlike some people, knew the difference between destruction and creation.